Howdy folks, Doc here with the continuation in our Snap On Toolbox tour. Today we're going to go through, it's not quite a junk drawer, but it is kind of a catch-all drawer. I end up with my some cutting tools, measurement tools, punches, scribes, feeler gauges, odds and ends. So this probably won't take that long, but I ended up needing some sort of a drawer where I could put all of the other things that don't really have a place in the, in the regular drawers because of they're sort of one-offs. So let's get to it. First thing you might notice is I've got some calipers here. This one's in tenths of millimeters. This one's both metric and SAE or imperial or US or inches or fractional or whatever we call it these days. And then this one here is in thousandths of an inch. So this one ends up getting used for more gunsmithing. This is kind of a general purpose one, especially since it gives me the fractionals. I often use this for measuring bolts and fasteners when I need to know, or even wrenches if they're not marked. And then metrics I use obviously when I need metric things, which is turning out to be more and more. Almost everything I get now is metric, except for accessory fasteners at the hardware store. They seem to, I end up with a lot of US measurements. I want to point out a couple of things. These are Blue Point punches, these two, and they actually they're spring-loaded, and they're really quite nice for if you're drilling or you need to mark something, making a nice clean hole or a dent in something. So if I take this and push down, actually I'm going to get a piece of wood and try this. So if I push down in it, so you can see, that little pop actually gave it just enough extra oomph that it will seat itself in wood, or it'll make a ding in metal. So I use it for a centering hole when I'm drilling, or if I need to mark something where I'm going to put a screw or put a fastener. So basically it's a spring-loaded mechanism like that until it gets to the last little bit, and then boom, it pops, and that gives it a little extra driving force. The reasonable price, there is a larger one. I have used that and it actually broke, so I'm back to using these smaller ones, and I've had really good luck with them, but straight off the Snap-on truck for the Blue Point ones. Then I have other kinds, just real sharp scribes such as this. Allow you to scratch into things. You can get carbide ones that will literally scratch into stainless steel. That's on my list, as carbide is getting easier to come by these days. Got a couple of mirrors. This is a Blue Point. This is an extendable, and it has a lighting system on it, so it takes a couple little batteries. And I thought it was a little corny at first, but I could always ignore the lights. And what I discovered is I end up using them quite often. Of course, I can grab a flashlight and aim it into this and see what I'm looking for. But for a lot of things, this is really handy, and the light does rotate. You can see here, so I can aim it. Takes a couple little batteries in the back, so mildly low profile. And the two things I've noticed about quality mirrors versus not real quality mirrors: one, you've got to have a nice strong handle and connection, yet be able to move it, and in fact be able to move it while it's in a position. So I would find, like, if I'm up under a car or working on an appliance or plumbing or something, and I've got this stuck way out and I might need to adjust it, I want to be able to have this strong enough so I can easily make the adjustments of the mirror while it's in place. So it both has to be strong enough to keep it from moving, you know, if I bump it or bounce it while I've got it inserted somewhere, and then also soft enough of a grip so I can make easy adjustments. So I'm quite happy with this Blue Point. I don't know if I really need a comfort grip rubberized handle, but sure, I'll take it. But small ones like this, they can come in handy. But I find that this ends up, in fact, I can feel it now already loosening up. You know, it's really nice as long as you don't bump it or need to adjust it. I might end up snapping this. It's already bending, snapping that thing off. So I'd get a good one. The other thing is make sure you get a good glass mirror, not one of the plastic ones, because they get dirty. You can't clean them easily without scratching them, and they end up not giving you the clear view that you need. Let's talk scissors and cutters and snips. That's also what ends up in this drawer. And the ones I'm going to highlight here, Klein, Milwaukee, and a couple others. I guess one other that made it in here. Klein has a couple of different snip models. They're for electrician work. They're known as snips over scissors. These have both have a wire stripping blade on the back. This rigid texture here can be used kind of like a file, or for reaming. You can insert this into metal conduit and ream out the edges after you've cut it. This is designed, you know, to fit into your hand this way and fall away while you're working, then bring it back. A lot of people will grab them and try to stick their fingers in here. It tells you that they don't know exactly how these things work. You can see with this Milwaukee, I mean, it's really a nice fit into your the palm of your hand. That I don't mind this at all. It makes it a much bigger design. As you can see, they're getting bigger, but it also, I mean, that's what you do. And some of these, this can get frankly painful. It's an ancient design, and I think we're well beyond that. On the Kleins, I'll mention. Really nice cutting knives. They are a little adjustable because this is a screw right here, but real conventional straight cutting scissor or snip, real handy. Definitely something that is worth the price because they aren't that expensive. Milwaukee, of course, now seems to be making about everything, and this is their design. You can see, that the forging or the whatever they used when they made this doesn't have near the finish work of the Klein. American craftsmanship here, Chinese inexpensive craftsmanship here. It does work. It's decent steel, but I have dinged these where I don't think I would have dinged the Kleins had I been using them. This is this little divot here in the blade holds the wire. Or holds whatever you're cutting a little bit better. I also find it gets in the way if you're trying to cut anything like a sheet of something, plastic or vinyl. This hooks up and causes a little deviation in the smoothness of the cut, but of course that's not what these are for. That's exactly what these are for, but sometimes that's what I've tried to use them with. Again, it does have some notches on the top, but these notches I find don't work near as well. In fact, they barely work compared to the notches in these Kleins. I don't know if it's the edge, the way it catches. They're also a different profile, you can see, for those notches, and I find the Kleins to be much more useful. The other Milwaukees are these two. I've mentioned these in another video. This is their larger kind of shop scissor design. This one's sort of a general purpose. This one's designed because of the angle for actually following a material across as you're cutting it, kind of like what you might see in the fabric store. I really, really, really like these things. I've got several pairs of them. I've got them around the house. These use a bolt or a hex bolt, so you can service them yourself. Take them apart, clean them if you need to, or even regrind the blades. The blades actually arrive, the cutting knives, quite quite well finished. I mean, you can see just barely any machining, any tool marks. This one's serrated very, very slightly. This side's not. And then on this guy, neither one is serrated. So for cutting paper or something, this one's probably a little bit better. But certainly look into them, and then they've got them, you know, kind of exposed here to show you that it is a full metal handle, and it's not just, you know, cutting to plastic at a certain point. And some scissors do that, and that's usually where they fail too later. This one is a gardening shear. This particular guy is a really high precision, if you see the tips there, cutting instrument that's designed for horticulture, or designed for, you know, working around very small plants where you need to get in and just snip things off at kind of a really precise point. And they wound up in here because I found, you know, sometimes that's actually what I need. Of course, I have other snips if I need to go after a little wire or something, but sometimes it's other things. I might be modifying something, dealing with the plastic, or the you know, cutting out just a teeny bit of some finish work on an object that isn't quite meeting my standards, and that's where I grab these. Plus, of course, they work great in the garden if you're cutting off, you know, peas and beans and things. So I end up with outdoor stuff winding up in my toolbox, just of course like I wind up with tool stuff in my outdoor box. Oh, I should mention these. These are Vis. They're a plier that doesn't have a real expensive price. I think they're under 20 bucks, but I love the form factor of these, but they are so slippery and they fly out of your hands. I don't know what Vis was thinking. I've had their scissors forever, but when I saw these, I thought those look really handy. It's a nice, beefy, strong set of cutters. You know, sharp serrated knife. Just bam, except it doesn't matter if it has the bumps on the handles for your fingers. It is just way, way too hard to hang on to these guys. So I don't know what to do with them yet. Maybe put some like skateboard deck tape on them or something in order to make them so they can stay in your hand. But they are just so slippery. Maybe I'll make a whole kit of slippery tools for fun, include my little Snap-on screwdriver that I can barely hang on to. I mean, they must have called each other and said, hey, what's the slipperiest material you can find? Let's make handles out of it. Yeah, great idea. Anyway, I really like them, except for that. And this is just it's an ideal set of cutting blades on this. That is just really handy. Unfortunately, it's almost unusable because of the handles. Next thing, got a couple of combination squares in here, large and small. Probably don't need to say much about those. Super handy if you don't have a combination square. And I find that for small work, the smaller one is so much easier to use than trying to balance a larger one. And notice both of them still have their scribes. I haven't lost those yet, but I'll keep working on it. A couple of measuring protractors in here. Got a half circle and a full circle. Fuse puller. Angle guide. This is another kind of a protractor for measuring on the inside of an object. I keep a lot of my torque wrenches in here. This is where they live, just to separate them out from the screwdrivers. And then over here, feeler gauges. Here's a set of larger Mac ones, and then I've got some Starrett, oops, they're over here, gauges as well. I almost never use these guys, but this one's so thin. But I know the moment I get rid of them, I'll need them. I have to carefully put this guy back. I don't know what that is, 1/1000 of an inch or something. There we go. And then Klein multi-tool, you've seen that in the video about the cutting knives, which also land in here. Utility knives live in this area. This is actually some old dental tools. I find those come in exceedingly handy. And a couple X-Acto knives. I don't use these near as much as I used to. And one thing, if you don't know about it, I don't know if I've got it in this, but you can buy the X-Acto knife blades, the extra blades, quite inexpensively. Here they are. You can just buy a box of them for not a lot of money. This is 100 blades, so kind of like the shop knives, where you can replace the blades, or just make kind of a sacrificial knife. You can get lots of different X-Acto blades, and if you find one that you really like for the work you do, you just get a bunch of the blades and then just your heart on them. You can sharpen them up a little bit, just like I showed you, honing them with the like a ceramic stone or something, just to keep them in the game for a little bit longer. But you can also go out and just buy a whole box of blades and just keep working just like regular shop knives. Don't be scared about using them hard. Some backup Allen wrenches, tire depth gauge. That lives down here because when I've kept the other one in the garage, it ended up disappearing. It's a little too small, too light. Let's see, a few other measuring tools, old school, angle. I can't remember the name of this. It sets the angle so you can copy it then when you're working on working with wood. So I can measure it and replicate it. And I noticed also I've got, this is designed for scaling something. Rarely use it, but basically I can align this to a particular point, which then gives me a value, corresponding value here. So I can take something, say this is, well, I'll set it like at about an inch here, and then say this is 2 inches. So everything here gets doubled here. If I want to do to scale up something or draw it out, that's what that thing's for. Anyway, that's the primary guts of this particular drawer. Sort of a catch-all, but also has a few specific themes. And that's it for here. Doc out.